Good afternoon and welcome along to Training Tuesday, coming to you from Southampton. My name is James and today we're going to be looking at audio triggering with MagicQ and what you can do with audio with MagicQ. As always, please do feel free to ask any questions in the chat as we go along and happy to answer those. There's many things you can do with audio in MagicQ. We're just going to cover some of them in Training Tuesday today. And look at this, I've got a special button which changes me over to my screen here today. Here we go. So I'm running MagicQ here and I'm running our 1.8.2 release here at the moment. This is a standard show, demo show, although I have modified the Q stacks a little bit just for the purpose of this demo. So first off, I'm in the setup window, view settings, ports, a couple of things just to mention about what I've set here. Just for the purpose of this demo, I'm actually taking my input from MagicQ. So I've set my audio input source to loop back the output of MagicQ into MagicQ. You can take audio input from the old ChamSys audio interface, should you have one of those, or you can use your sound card of your PC, so you can take an audio source in or use something like a virtual loopback cable and pump audio into MagicQ, and you can also use USB sound cards if you are on a console. Of course, if you're on a PC, we can use a USB sound card. You would just pick the internal sound card option and then you'd pick the device underneath here. If you're on any of our latest MagicQ consoles, here I am back again, the consoles that we have, the MQ50, 70, 250, 500M, all have audio input directly on them, but we also do support many generic USB sound cards as well from most of the big main manufacturers out there, and you'll find a list of them in our manual, from Behringers to Focusrites, etc. You'll find them in the manual, so you can use those with a ChamSys console to take audio in. And now be aware, on the consoles, depending on the range, the console you've got, there's two different audio ports. In fact, if you look at a console like the MQ250, you'll see there's actually two audio ports on the back of it. One uses a hardware device, so there's a 7-band physical chip on the console which does audio analysis. The other is a direct audio in and uses software for the analysis. Now, we rewrote our software analysis a couple of years ago, and I would generally recommend to all users to use the software analysis, so use that direct audio in. It's the same as if I'm using the audio in on my PC or laptop as well these days. So anyway, back to MagicQ here. So I've set myself here to using audio output loopback, and actually for the purpose of the demo here, I'm outputting via the internal sound card, which is set for you guys to hear on the stream here today. And of course it's not muted, so you should hear some audio. What I've done is I've set a Q stack here, playback 9. I've just set a track on it, which if I play that now, you should start hearing that track playing out on the stream in a moment. There you go, hopefully a low enough level that you can still hear me talking over the top of it. But I've stopped talking for a moment, you should be able to hear the track. Like so. And on this playback here, I have put another track, which is just a 60 BPM metronome, as you can see running here. There we go. Cool, so I've got two bits of audio files and we're going to talk about how we can do audio triggering within MagicQ. So as I said, you've got a couple of different options. First off is just to do fader level. So if I take playback 3 here, which is just an intensity for my spots, I'm going to go into my Q stack options, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to go to view options here, and I'm going to go along to the audio tab, and here is all of the options I have for audio controls within my Q stack. So the first one I'm going to look at is the top option, audio controls fader level. Now if I set that to yes, you can see the lights went dark in my viz. If I set that back to no, I have to reactivate the playback, but the lights will come back on again. If I set that to yes, the lights go off. Why? Well, what's now happening is when I bring the fader up, it says that the range goes up to 100%, but now the volume, so the level of audio I send in, now controls the fader level. So if I bring my track up here, you can see my little bars down here. You can see little VU meters there. You can see they're pulsing away, and you can see that in the output of my viz. If I open up the output window, you can see the same. The louder the audio signal, the higher the level's going to be. And of course, this now just acts a bit like a grandmaster. It doesn't actually give me the output. It's just a cap to say at the loudest level, it's only going to be, say, 50% with the fader there. Of course, it's a value in your Q as well. With the fader at 100%, it can go up to the full range of whatever you've got in your Q. If I bring on my metronome there, you can see it's now pulsing up and down with that 60 BPM metronome, which I set there. There you go, and you can see that in the output window there as that beat comes on and off there. Of course, do be aware if you've put a release time in, that could affect things as well. But there you go. So that's the first option. Let me turn that metronome off so you can hear me again. Audio controls fader level. Okay, what else have we got? Well, we also have audio jumps to Q step. Well, clearly I need more than one Q to do that, so I'm going to go over to playback 2 here, which is 4 Qs, which if I run up the fader, I've already set this into Q timing, and it's my pars in red, green, amber, and blue. And right now you can see it's just a Q stack. I have to bump through those Qs, but this one here under audio, audio jumps to Q step, now uses the volume and it scales. So if I have 4 Qs at 100%, so a max volume would be in Q4, at 50% would be, well actually let's say 49% would be Q2, and if I go above 50% it's going to be in Q3 up to 74, and then when we go 75%, it scales. So it takes 100% range of audio, so nothing is going to be in Q1. At the highest audio is going to be the last Q in my stack. I have 4 Qs in this stack, so I set that to yes. And you can see if I run up this playback like so, you can see it's sitting in Q1 because there's no audio playing. Now if I run my track, the louder it gets will jump to which Q I'm now within. You can see there you go, exactly that. So it allows me to use the level. Now, of course, you're probably not going to use it to a beat of music. You might use it to just pump in some audio and have it set the level based on how loud things are. That's the idea of this one here. So anyway, there you go. 2 ways of triggering of audio. Let's go for another one. Audio bumps go / effects. So this is a Q stack. What can now happen is when I run my audio file up here, is it receives a beat, it's going to bump go. So you can see my 60 BPM metronome, every time it hits a beat, it's bumping go on the Q stack and I'm going to the next Q. Fairly simple. Again, that's quite useful if maybe I want to sync to say a kick drum or something. Now, what can I do in terms of my source? Well, my audio channel is set to energy. You can choose left or right of your track, or your audio input, sorry, and you can set a specific frequency. So I can say, just listen to that 63 hertz, maybe just a kick drum frequency, the lower bottom end there. Or I can say, look at the combined engine. You can see there's some set frequencies we allow you to pick there. Like so, I'm going back to energy, and you can see as it receives a beat, it bumps across to the next step. Okay. So this is working on a Q stack. This will also work on effects as well. So here's one I made earlier. Here should be, if I bring these faders down here, just an effect running across my spots here. It's just a dimmer effect. If I look at the Q, the effect, you can see it's just a basic dimmer chase with the width turned down. And if I go into my audio options, so I press my select button 3 times, 1, 2, 3, view options, audio, and if I set bumps go, you can see to the beat of music, bump, 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 it's bumping a step of my effect. Great. So 3 ways we can trigger with audio. Now, I actually went into a different option here without even showing you guys. So my audio channel, you'll notice here, actually, I changed that from energy. I'd preset that, I'd forgotten I'd done that, but if I set that back and bump the BPM, you can see it is still working there, so it's bumping the BPM at 60 there. Now, what's the difference? Well, I was going to get onto that. So by default, we set you on energy, and I set audio bumps go / effects to yes, so it's looking at the combined output, and away we go there. Now, MagicQ, as of a couple of years ago, is a little bit smarter now, and it can actually do some track analysis. So I'm going to set this, rather than energy, I'm going to set that to audio input BPM. I'm going to kill the metronome, and I'm going to run my track. And okay, you can see that should now sync and run in beat. Now, what you've seen is now I set audio input BPM, these 4 little beat markers appear here. And it's doing some analysis on the track. If I go to the window menu here, there's an audio window, and you can see it's now analysing the audio it gets in. If I change over and I drop the metronome in, you can see that here. Now, one thing to be aware, you do need to set the BPM range at the top here, which clearly the 60 BPM metronome, I would need to set that, there you go. If I set that here, you can see it's locked on. Okay, it was almost 60 BPM, it's 59 BPM, but there you go, it's locked on to that beat there, and it's giving me my beat like so. If I go back to the track has a higher BPM, so I'm going to wind my range up a little bit, and it's going to lock in on the BPM range of that track. Okay, you can see there, it's building up the BPM range, it's sitting at say 115 there. And you can see it's now set that range. So it's doing some analysis of the audio input. And now if I come back to the settings here, you can see I set that to audio input BPM. You can see here I've now set that to go, and when I've set that, it's now using the audio input rather than the energy. So it's using my analysis of the BPM rather than the combined energy. So it'll give me a slightly different result there. Now, if I come back and release this one here and come back to playback 2, which I set as a Q timing, and I set this to audio input BPM, and then I go to audio beat step and select that to yes. It will detect, which as you can see in the tooltip here, when set to yes, the Q stack will use the currently detected beat number from the audio input BPM tracker or from an external DJ system which we use as well to jump to the QID corresponding to the QID for the beat number. So it's actually being a little bit smarter here and jumping across the different beats that it detects. You can see there my 4 beats that I've set there. Of course I set this to 4 beats, so the default is beat step length 4. Okay, if I set that to say 6, add 6 Qs or something, do the same there, so it can jump between the beats. Now if you sync to a DJ system, it will actually use that as the input, so you could scratch back and forwards and the track would, your chase or your Q stack would jump to a specific Q within that stack. So we can use the audio input BPM. Now we also have the option here of audio sets BPM. For hover over this one, so it can set the chase speed of a Q stack based on the BPM that it's receiving. Now obviously when I'm using that I shouldn't be using level etc. there. Of course my track's just finished, hasn't it? If I bring that back on, if I go to this one here which I've set as a chase, so this is in chase timing, and I bring this one down because it's the same cues but set in chase timing. If I go and set this one, okay, I could bump go on it, but hang on a minute, I'm going to set the BPM based on the audio. You can see it's now following along with the beats it's receiving and setting the timing of the effect. So if I go into this and look here, you can see the BPM is being set dynamically based on the audio analysis. If I go back to my metronome, like so here, of course I need to remember to go back and set my BPM range so it's somewhere within the 60 BPM, like so. It will build that up, there you go. It's now going to lock in and you can see it's sitting there at the right BPM. It will lock in a moment and drop me to the correct BPM of that stack. So there you go. There is 4-5 different ways of triggering audio within MagicQ. There is much more to this as well, but hopefully that's given you a quick insight into what you can do audio triggering within MagicQ. Let me stop that metronome. There we go. If you do have any questions, please do post them up in the chat. Happy to answer those as we go through. If you're watching this later on, please do still comment up in the chat. We do monitor the social channels on both Facebook and YouTube as we go through the week afterwards, and we'll get back to you on your comments on there. So thanks for joining us for Training Tuesday again. Thanks for joining us for Training Tuesday today, and we'll see you again next week.